The doctors had already given up when the single dad stepped forward. The girl lay motionless on the narrow hospital bed, her legs thin and useless beneath a faded blanket, her future already written in medical reports stamped with words like irreversible, permanent, and hopeless. Around her stood machines worth more than most homes, and behind the glass walls waited billionaire specialists flown in from across the world. Yet nothing changed, nothing moved, and then her mother saw the single dad kneel beside the bed, place his rough, working hands gently on his daughter's legs, and begin doing what no amount of money, power, or prestige ever could. That was the moment her mother collapsed in tears, realizing that miracles don't always come from the highest towers, but sometimes from the quiet strength of a broken man who refuses to give up. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the kind of love that can change destinies, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us why humanity still matters. The single dad's name was Adam, a man whose life had been carved down to essentials by loss. He had once dreamed big, once planned a future filled with travel, laughter, and a partner by his side. But fate had a way of stripping things bare. His wife had died young, taken by illness before their daughter, Lily, could even remember her face. What followed was years of long shifts, second-hand clothes, and a quiet exhaustion that settled deep into his bones. Adam worked wherever he could, construction sites, warehouses, night cleaning jobs, anything that kept food on the table and a roof over their heads. He never complained. There was no one to complain to. Lily was all he had, and for her, he would have carried the world on his back. The accident happened on a rainy afternoon that no one thought would change their lives. A bus skidded, metal screamed, and when it was over, Lily survived, but her legs did not. Doctors said the damage to her spine was severe. They spoke gently, but their eyes carried certainty. She would never walk again. The words sank into Adam like stones. He nodded, thanked them, and then went home and cried alone in the dark, pressing his fists against his mouth so his daughter wouldn't hear him break. Lily was brave in ways that frightened him. She smiled through pain, learned to maneuver her wheelchair, and told her father it was okay, that they would be okay. But at night, Adam would find her staring at the ceiling, eyes wet with dreams she no longer knew how to reach. That was when something inside him hardened. He didn't know how. He didn't know why. But he refused to accept that this was the end of her story. He began reading old medical journals, forgotten rehabilitation studies, personal stories buried deep in online forums. He read about muscles that remembered movement, about nerves that could sometimes be retrained, about recovery that didn't follow timelines written in textbooks. Most of what he found was dismissed by professionals as outdated or unrealistic. But Adam had nothing left to lose. He couldn't afford private clinics or experimental treatments. What he had was time, stubbornness, and a love that didn't understand the word impossible. Every morning before school, he stretched Lily's legs gently, moving them inch by inch, apologizing to her body for the pain it had endured. Every night after work, exhausted and sore, he did it again. He turned their small living room into a makeshift therapy space using borrowed equipment and homemade tools. When Lily cried, he cried with her. When she wanted to quit, he rested his forehead against hers and reminded her that her legs were still part of her, whether they listened yet or not. Years passed this way, unnoticed by the world. Then one day, a charity program offered Lily a chance to be evaluated by an elite medical team funded by billionaires. Adam didn't hesitate. He packed their few belongings and traveled hours to a city that felt like another planet. The hospital gleamed with glass and steel. Doctors spoke in confident tones. Machines hummed with promise. Tests were run, scans analyzed, consultations held behind closed doors. The verdict was polite and final. There had been no measurable improvement. The damage was too old. Too severe. Therapy could help her cope, but walking was not a realistic goal. The words were softer than before, but they hurt more. Lily nodded, her face calm, while her mother, who had remarried and remained present in Lily's life, sat frozen, eyes wide, struggling to breathe. Adam thanked the doctors, shook their hands, and wheeled his daughter back to the room they were staying in. That night, while the city lights blinked outside the window, Adam did what he had always done. He knelt. He stretched. He spoke to Lily's legs as if they were old friends who had lost their way. He didn't know the billionaire doctors were watching through a partially open door, curious about the man who refused to accept their conclusions. They saw his patience, the way he adjusted pressure based on her breathing, the way he celebrated the smallest twitch like a victory. They said nothing. They had seen too many hopeful parents before. The next morning, something changed. It was small, almost nothing. Lily felt a warmth where there had only been numbness. A flicker. A sensation that didn't belong to memory. Adam noticed it instantly. He didn't shout. He didn't cry. He simply nodded, as if he had been waiting for this moment all along. He continued, carefully, respectfully, treating her body like something sacred. Days turned into weeks. Against expectations, the flickers became responses. Muscles tightened. Toes moved. The doctors re-ran tests, confusion replacing certainty. They increased sessions, added equipment, brought in specialists. Yet the core of Lily's progress always came back to the same thing. Her father's hands, his presence, his refusal to let her believe she was broken beyond repair. Her mother watched all of this unravel with trembling hands. She had trusted the experts. She had prepared herself for acceptance, for letting go of hope. Seeing her daughter's legs respond under Adam's care shattered something inside her. One afternoon, when Lily stood for the first time with support, her knees shaking violently, her mother's strength gave out. She collapsed to the floor, sobbing, not from pain, but from the overwhelming realization that love had succeeded where money and science had failed. The moment Lily took her first step was not dramatic. There were no cameras, no applause. Just a quiet room, a father holding his breath, a daughter concentrating with everything she had, and a mother crying into her hands. The step was small, but it was real, and real was more than anyone had promised. News spread slowly. Doctors documented the case, careful with their language, unwilling to call it a miracle. Adam didn't care what they called it. He cared that Lily laughed more now. That she dreamed again. That when she fell, she got back up, just like he had taught her in every other part of life. As time passed, Lily walked more. Not perfectly, not easily, but she walked. Adam never took credit. He said he had only reminded her body of something it already knew. When people asked how he did it, he struggled to answer. There were no secrets, no formulas. Just showing up every day, even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. Near the end of this story, if it's touching your heart even a little, please take a second to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. These small actions help stories like this reach people who might be on the edge of giving up. Lily eventually stood on a stage at her school graduation, leaning slightly but standing on her own. Adam watched from the crowd, his hands shaking, his eyes wet. He had never needed applause. This was enough. This was everything. Before this story ends, we have one special request for you. Please comment below and tell us what this story made you feel, or who it reminded you of. Your words matter more than you know. The world often believes that power lives in wealth, in titles, in knowledge written on paper. But sometimes, the greatest power is a tired father kneeling beside a bed, refusing to let his child's story end where others say it must. And sometimes, that is enough to make a girl stand, a mother collapse in tears, and the impossible quietly become real.